course, Ireland scoring 4 goals in the game against anyone as well. Amazing times. We're Irish government going to launch a national holiday, a celebration for that.
Hey guys, welcome back. Stoppage Time returns after a 1-week hiatus. It was the international break, so we gave all the guys a break, but we are back. EPL this weekend, 3 monster games in the EPL, so we have to discuss those. And of course, Champions League recommences next week as well. We'll be doing some Champions League games later on next week, but Liverpool, Everton, Man City, Brighton, Chelsea, Arsenal. Those are the games of the weekend, and 3 marquee games. Here to discuss them with them are 3 marquee guys, Kevin Dolan, Nick Borman, and Pavlos Lagaretos. Let's bring the boys in. Guys, how was your international break? Pavlos, I'll start with you quickly.
It was pretty decent. I think it was in the plus. I won a couple of best bets. I did go to see the Greece versus Netherlands match. I was gutted to see that, that penalty kick that pretty much destroyed our chances to go to the Euro next summer. But there is the Nations League path, and we can also make it. So it was a pretty decent international break for me, but I'm super glad to talk some EPL with you guys. But be careful, this is a very tricky weekend.
Yeah, Kev, it is a tricky weekend because we know that normally games off an international break are tough enough as it is, especially with these teams that we're talking about, like Man City. A majority of their team were playing for their countries. But not only that, but then you have Champions League literally 4 days later. Pretty tough, I would say. Thoughts?
Yeah, although I do feel like Pavlos says that every weekend, this is going to be a tricky card and so on. But he's especially right about this one. For me, I had a good international break overall. I took it fairly easy. I only had 2 selections across the entire break, but went 2 from 2 in those. Of course, Ireland scoring 4 goals in the game against anyone as well. Amazing times. We're Irish government going to launch a national holiday, a celebration for that. But, as Pavlos said, glad to be back. I don't mind international break. It's fine, but I much, much prefer domestic league action.
Yeah, definitely. And I know, Nick, you've got a 5% play going this weekend, so you're ready to go right out of the gate.
Yeah, I do. And Kevin, forget Ireland scoring a goal. How about San Marino? I think it might be their first goal they scored in like 12 years. But international break, much like Kevin, very quiet. Was successful 4-1, so happy with that. And I posted up a couple things yesterday on Twitter. Going to have a lot of, I guess, good detailed information on the leagues as we get back into action. More coming for Spain and Germany today as well. So I'll just try to get as much info as I can in and stay ahead of these number moves.
Yeah, let's get going, guys, because we got that first game, and this is the one that Kevin Dolan always says is the trickiest game of the weekend, the 7:30 game. It's the early kickoff game in the UK, and it's Liverpool and Everton. Liverpool at home at Anfield, -185. The draw is +461. Everton, 695. Kev, I always get this wrong. Or the pronunciation wrong. And it's the Merseyside Derby, correct? Have I pronounced that correctly?
Merseyside Derby, yeah. More of a Z sound, I think.
Okay. All right. Well, this is one I'm interested to get eventually Pavlos' take on it because when you talk about teams, heated derbies, this is probably one of them. 22 red cards across all the derbies in this the meeting of these two teams. Everton's found their offense. 4 goals in the last couple of games, 3 last time out. This is the team that when I bet on them couldn't score, and now I'm glad I stayed with them because they somehow found their scoring. Calvert-Lewin back in the lineup. They seem to be attacking better. They seem to be finishing better. And it's one of the reasons why, I think both teams are going to find the net in this one. Maybe the defenses aren't completely wound up after that international break. So I think we're going to see goals from both sides here, and we should get over that total. So you can lay $1.20 and take both teams to score, yes. and over 2.5. That's available at DK, and that's where I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to throw it over to you, Kev, for your thoughts on this one.
I mean, you mentioned the early kickoff, Carmine. I mean, 2 weeks ago, didn't we have Tottenham against Luton? And Tottenham has scored at least 2 goals in every single game in the EPL. I mean, they can't even hit 2 against Luton. So it just shows you this is the most erratic fixture, on the card. So probably I'll be keeping my money in my pocket for this one as well. But this is a very short turnaround, obviously, from international duty. I'm sure, especially Klopp and some of the other managers will have something to say about this. But it will affect the game, being so early. Darwin Núñez was out in action on Tuesday night against Brazil, bagged a goal in that game. Montevideo, is so far away. So for those players, they have to come back. And of course, he's far from the only one involved in international duty. It is a big ask for players to regroup in time, even if they're rested. Other players coming in for a lunchtime kickoff in England. So because of that, I think this will be a bit of a slow burner early, in all honesty. Probably a bit of a, fatigue from both sides due to that international break. It's been 2 weeks since domestic action as well. And because of that, I believe there is some value in the second half to be the highest scoring half here at -110. Liverpool have had a habit of shipping goals early in games this season. But against Everton in particular, traditionally they've been very tight. They've shut out Everton in 3 straight games now in this series. They've kept 26 Premier League clean sheets against them as well. That's the most out of any opponent Liverpool's faced. And Liverpool are the team Everton have failed to score against most in Premier League history. So slow start for me in this one, likely. But as the game wears on, I expect Liverpool to kind of take control. Possibly see a couple of goals in the second half, but being the early kickoff, anything could happen here.
All right, Kevin Dolan, WagerTalk.com. Nick, you look at these two teams, and like I mentioned, that early kickoff, I don't know what it is about it, but we see sometimes the unlikeliest of results. Liverpool obviously are in action again on Thursday, so it's not a completely quick turnaround for them as far as European play go, and they're at Anfield as well, so there's no travel for them for their Europa League game. Give me your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, you're right. We do often see weird results in this game, and I'm gonna bet that most people would think Everton covering +1.5 would be an odd result. So I'm going to tell you why I think that could happen here. Everton, 7 points, right? What a joke. Barely above relegation. Just like we talk about, it seems like every year with them. Liverpool maybe back to themselves, 17 points, sitting in 4th, clear favorite, again, to get back in the Champions League, those top 4 positions. But if you hang on for a minute, I'm going to throw some numbers out there that may surprise everyone. Early in the season, results don't always marry up to what the data is suggesting. And Liverpool, they've created the second most expected goals in the league thus far at 18.7. That's not surprising, of course. But Everton ranked just behind them at 5th, barely creating less than them at 17.6. You're only talking about a full goal over the total of 8 matches. Defensively, the teams are nearly identical. Liverpool allowing 12 expected goals, Everton 12.7. Expected points shows these teams right on top of one another. Liverpool at 14.7 and Everton at 14.3. So the metrics behind what's going on here is suggesting that Everton is playing much better than what they've actually earned as far as points goes so far this season. And for Liverpool, they're getting the results, but if you look at some of their defensive numbers, they really aren't that much better than they were yet last year. So I know it's early and maybe those things can change, but Everton, I just want to say, is playing a lot better than I think people are giving them credit for. Of course, here, I think, a lot of the handicap, if I didn't know any of these team names and I was just digging in XG data and I was just looking at that, I would immediately grab the +1.5. But of course, bookmakers and everybody else, and ourselves too, perception is going to be, oh, it's Liverpool, it's the jersey. They're better than Everton. -1.5 seems to make a lot of sense. So I think that's why we're seeing the handicap there, but the numbers don't really justify that. To argue against myself a little bit, I will say that Liverpool has had a tougher schedule thus far. They've already faced Chelsea, Newcastle, Tottenham, Brighton. Everton's really only faced Arsenal, and I guess Brentford would be the next best that they face. So it certainly has been tougher on the Liverpool side. But the Merseyside derby has suggested that Everton do play Liverpool pretty tough. They've covered this spread in 10 of the last 14 meetings as well. So I really don't think I have the cojones to actually bet this, being the early game, being the first game back. But if you're really looking to get some action on this one, I'll go crazy now. I actually think Everton plus 1.5 is not a bad way to go.
All right, I like it, Nick. Pavlos, I'm going to give you the final word on this game. Or you're a guy who excels in prop bets, especially. Are you looking at any cards or red cards? I know the markets right now as only really have players to get carded or players to get red cards. I haven't seen any totals for yellows in this game as of yet, and those usually come out on Friday. But where are you looking at in this game?
I did look at cards, but I didn't like the referee because I always look at the referee, and this is a referee that doesn't really give out that many red cards. So red card is out of the question. As soon as we have some lines in the totals, maybe something there. But, I'm going to take both teams to score and over 2.5 goals here. There are several reasons why I like this. I think Everton score at least once here. Liverpool, from the team that started against Brighton in their last match, Darwin Núñez. I'm gonna just continue touch on what Kevin said about the international break. Darwin Núñez played both matches for Uruguay, both 90 minutes. Luis Diaz also started Liverpool's last match, played both 90 minutes in the World Cup qualifiers, and he had to travel back from Ecuador. Alexis McAllister started in both matches for Argentina, played 90 minutes. Dominic Szoboszlai started in both matches for Hungary, played 90 minutes. Van Dijk the same. Andrew Robertson, he got a knock in the match in the Spain versus Scotland match. He's probably not going to play. And his backup, Tsimikas, played both matches for Greece, played both 90 minutes in the match against the Netherlands. I was in there, I was watching it. He looked really tired from the 70th minute to the 90th minute. He looked really, really tired. But they don't have a lot of players right now because there are several injuries as well. Gakpo is questionable. Curtis Jones is suspended. Thiago Alcantara is out. Bajcetic is out. So they're probably going to have to use a lot of, several players who played a couple of matches in the international break. They had to travel to and from, some of them to the other edge of the earth. So I think their defense is going to be struggling. While Everton didn't have a lot of players in the international break, they're going to be fresh. They're going to be fired up for this Merseyside derby. I think they score at least once here. I just don't see Liverpool not scoring. I think this match starts at 1-1, and we're just looking for one more goal. Hopefully it's Liverpool. Both teams to score and over 2.5 goals at minus 120 looks like a really good bet on this match.
Carlos Sagretos of WagerTalk.com, always giving us one phrase within his breakdown, and today it was traveling back from the other edge of the earth. So I'm not sure if Pavlos thinks the world is flat or not, but with that given, with that said, let's head over to the second match of the day, and we're going to see if goals reign supreme in this one. Man City and Brighton. Man City minus 245 at home. The draw is plus 441. Brighton plus 561. They're already talking about every time I see a report and it talks about Roberto De Zerbi at the manager of Brighton, is that he could be the replacement for Pep Guardiola at Man City. We'll see if that actually ever does happen in the future. But for now, Kev, I'm just going to go back to, I wish I just could record it once and replay it every time Man City is at home. One thing I did pretty much every single game last year until they took away the value of it was anytime it was plus money, I would take it. Man City at home, the parlay that's available, Man City to win and over 3.5 goals scored, it's plus 125. Last year, it was in the plus 150, 160 range, kept hitting. It was such a profitable prop bet that I just kept playing it. And then towards the end of the season, it dropped to pretty much even money and a little bit of juice. It opened this season at minus 120 on that given prop. But I'm going there. I think we're going to see some goals in this one. Like I said, City's also thinking about a Champions League game, Brighton European play. the defenses may not be tight off the international break. So I am going to go with over 3.5 goals with a City win, and you're getting plus 125 on that one. Give me your thoughts on this City Brighton game, Kev.
I wasn't looking forward to breaking this one down, to be honest, Carmine. The rebuttals are going to be scathing, no doubt. But I like the under in this one at almost 2-1. I just think it's just a big price. Despite obviously how explosive Brighton games have been this season. I was on this show 2 weeks ago when we last recorded saying that even at minus 200, I believe it was then, I thought the both teams to score an over 2.5 prop still presented some value in that Liverpool-Brighton game. That turned out to be the case. A cash in the first half alone, and that's been Brighton pretty much all season. Every single one of their games across every competition, bar one AFL Cup game, has finished with at least 4 goals. But, at the end of the day, price is everything. That's why we're in the business that we're in. And while there was money to be made, look, I was, involved in a lot of it at the start too. Just the margin on Brighton overs now is starting to close. The juice is getting heavier and heavier and heavier. The books are adjusting the Brighton totals. Maybe they're still not, haven't, caught up just yet. But at these kind of prices, just shy of 2-1, I think there's definitely some value to be had on the under here. West Ham held Brighton to a single goal in their game. Aston Villa did the same last month. So as good as Brighton have been offensively this season, there's no reason to believe that the best defensive team in the entire league can't do the same in this one. And somewhat in agreement with that thought process is the fact that the books have the Manchester City to win by exactly 2-0 correct score prop priced up as the second favourite, most likely outcome in this game. So I get it. Brighton games continue to sail over the total, but at the end of the day, you're giving me the best defensive team in the entire league at home here, a venue where they shut out Newcastle, a venue where they shut out Real Madrid, a venue where they shut out Bayern Munich at almost 2-1. I have to take that price. So, like I said, I'm gonna, batten down the hatches for the rebuttals here. But this is all about the price for me, and at almost plus 200, I'm happy to take a bit of a flyer on the under 2.5 here. And also the correct 2-0 scoreline as well. I might sprinkle on that too.
Right, so Kevin Dolan, we're going mano a mano on this one. And I get it. Pep Guardiola has always said the best defense is a good offense. If you have possession of the ball 70% of the time, it's easier to defend. Guys, Kevin and I are on the wrong side, we're on opposite sides of this game. Let us know what you think. Which one of us gets the better of each other? Drop a comment at the bottom of the video. Hit subscribe if you haven't already done so you never miss any of the great actionable info shows across the WagerTalk platform. And give it a like as well, too, while you're at it. Nick, give me your thoughts on this game.
So I guess I have to follow and rebuttal Kevin, as he suggested it might be pretty ugly here. So I'll just start off with, what an idiot. I only tease. But seriously, it's a play that's going to take some cojones. I don't hate it. It's a big number that Kevin's getting on there. I just like you said, Carmen, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. All 8 of Brighton's matches this year have reached at least 4 goals. And it's not like, that their totals have been lined low. 7 of their 8 games have been lined at least 3 goals already this season. So the odds makers are putting totals out there that are high. And yes, it's going to continue to creep higher as long as they continue to cover that. So 3.5 goals, every one of them's reached at least 4. Every one of them's reached both teams to score. So I like that idea too of getting both teams to score in over 2.5. But I just see a lot of goals here. Brighton, like the question I kind of have for myself that I'm trying to figure out is, Brighton's numbers so far, 2.28 expected goals per match they're averaging, while they're allowing 1.9. Those are ridiculous numbers, and you have to expect at one point those are going to start to fall back. It's a combined 4.18 expected goals per match. So you think that's going to change? At the same point, it's been producing them good results. So it's like, how much do they tactically want to change, or do they think that they need to? I mean, they started off 5-1 in the EPL, so it's only kind of encouraged that aggressive style. The scary part is they've now conceded 8 goals in their last 2 Premier League matches. It was 6, I think, to Villa and then 2 after that. So I obviously that might be enough for them to start to think about changing things, but they did have a pretty good side here. And City, will Brighton play defensively against City? I don't know. I think they know they can score. I think their best chance to score is to do what they've been doing, and that's push forward and go on the attack. So I don't feel like this is going to be a tight, cagey game where one side's trying to shut it down. I feel like both are going to move, both are going to have some freedom through the middle, and both are willing to take some risks to do it. And I know Kevin mentioned City, how good they can be defensively, but they've conceded quite a bit this year. And then they kind of, at times, you can argue that they struggled offensively. They're coming off that 1-0 loss to Arsenal, of course. Before that, a 2-1 loss to Wolves. You're giving up 2 goals to Wolves? I mean, I don't understand you're one of the better teams in the league and you give up 2 goals to Wolves. I don't know what's going on there. But I know it's just a small sample size. One game doesn't mean anything necessarily. But they have conceded more often than not so far this year. So I feel like it's goals. Whether you do it, as Carr mentioned, Man City to win in over 3.5, just over 3.5, both teams to score in over 2.5. I feel like they're all pretty good. And again, just until it fails, I'm just going to keep riding it.
All right, Nick Borman, Pavlos, you got the last word on this game. And, we haven't seen the best out of Man City as of yet. Of course, obviously, Kevin De Bruyne injured, missing this season. So that hurts this team. Rodri picking up a red card, being suspended as well, too. You take out another playmaker from that team. When this team is healthy and has a majority, if not every single player in that lineup, they are a deadly team. And then when teams come to face them at the Etihad, normally they just want to try and slow them down, play a defensive game. We saw Newcastle come and with no thoughts of trying to attack and score. And I think they lost that game 1-0. I just don't see Brighton being that type of team here. I think they're coming. I think they're going to come and try and play their game and let the chips fall where they may. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. With that notion, I don't think Brighton have any realistic chances to go there and play defense and come out with a draw. I don't think this is going to happen. If they set themselves up to play like that, they're gonna suffer. However, City, something definitely wrong with City so far in the season. Most likely the injury to Kevin De Bruyne, one of the best, if not the best midfielder in the world. Haaland is suffering from what I think it is like a low self-esteem or something. He's just not what he used to be, and it's not just the absence of Kevin De Bruyne. I think he's suffering from something mental at this point in time. And, he played a couple of matches in the international break. Yes, he was very happy to score a couple of goals against Cyprus, but, it was just a bad opponent. And he tends to be really good against the small sides. But whenever things matter the most, for example, in the match against Spain, he was invisible. And it's not entirely his fault. It's also the team behind him. But I'm not really sure how his mentality is going to be returning from such a double-edged, two-sided international break. City, as Nick said, they don't keep a lot of clean sheets. In fact, they've kept just 3 clean sheets in 13 matches this season. So they conceded at least 1 goal in 10 of the 13 matches so far in the season. And Brighton, with all the quality they have up front, but just keep in mind that Mitoma is questionable. I think he's going to play, but he did pull out of the Japanese national team. He didn't play at all, but I think he's going to be ready. One big absence for Brighton is their left wing back, Pervis Estupinian, who is going to be injured for, I think, 3-4 weeks still. So he's not going to be there. And he's not just a good defender, but he's really good and very influential up front. He scores, he can assist, he just terrorizes the opposing defenses. So I think Brighton lost a little bit of steam there in their offense, but I do think, with how City are defending this season, which is mediocre at best, and with how Brighton play offensively, I think there's going to be both teams to score and over 2.5 goals. After all, Brighton scored in 4 of the last 5 matches against City. Both teams to score is 4-1 in that span, and both teams to score and over 2.5 goals is 3-2. Small sample, but the improvement of Brighton this season has been kind of eye-popping, and I think they can take advantage of whatever's going on with City as of late. Now, the price is not great, -145 for both teams to score and over 2.5 goals. Don't go, crazy on it. Don't throw 5 units on it. I think this is probably going to be a 1-unit bet for me, tops, just to keep the day interesting. I think there's better matches to bet on Saturday. But I'm gonna throw one unit on both teams to score and over 2.5 goals, minus 145. I think that's quite a big possibility, right?
I like that, Pavlos, and I tend to agree with you on the Erling Haaland one. He just hasn't looked himself after that great year last year. Maybe it is lacking confidence. Maybe once he does, net that brace or the hat trick and something gets him going. It can only get worse, I think, especially if the rumors are true that with the Ballon d'Or being announced, I think on October 30th. He should win it, but apparently it's been leaked that it's Lionel Messi who's going to win that trophy, and that shouldn't happen. Holland had just a phenomenal season last year. I get it. Messi won the World Cup. Holland won Champions League, scored in excess of 50, 60 goals, I think it was, and had a great year. So we'll see what happens there. Final game on the card, guys. Let's get to it. It is Chelsea and Arsenal. I know you guys are just dying to talk about Chelsea, and you people out there watching are just dying to listen to us talk about Chelsea on this show. Kevin's favorite team, Chelsea, plus 231. The draw, plus 243. Arsenal, plus 130. Kev, I'm going to keep mine short and to the point. I just don't see how there's a lot of goals in this. I guess the total sits at 2.5, and it's minus 115 both ways. Chelsea home games, 4 games thus far, they're averaging, the games are averaging 1.75 goals per game. Arsenal, a very good defensive team coming to town. They're 3-0 on the road thus far, away from home, and they've kept a clean sheet in all 3. Does Chelsea find any goals in this one? Are Arsenal wound up and ready for one of those 1-0 type games? I like the under here. I just don't see a lot of goals in this one, so I'm going to go under 2.5 in this one. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I just struggle to find where the Chelsea goals come from at times. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I could see it under Carmine. I probably think most people are going to look at this game. They're going to see plus 133 on Arsenal and, assume it's a bit of a slam dunk. Looks a big price. Arsenal have won 3 straight games against Chelsea. They've netted at least 3 goals in 2 of those games as well. They just come off beating Manchester City in the league, a result that will have obviously given them some massive confidence moving forward. And they face a Chelsea team in this one. Chelsea have done to bankrolls over the last 18 months. It's like what the Joker did to that mountain of money in the Dark Knight. It's just a torch and gasoline job for backers, what Chelsea have done to wallets, over that time frame. So I wouldn't put anyone off backing Arsenal in this spot. They are the better team. But just for me personally, I'm primarily a situation handicapper, and this is a tough spot for Arsenal, this weekend on the road. They have an absolutely massive game against Sevilla on Tuesday night over in Spain in the Champions League. That group is wide open as well. And if, Lons do a job in PSV at home in the other matchup in that group, that then puts some serious pressure on Arsenal to deliver in that game. So there's no question with such a short turnaround, from the weekend to Tuesday, that game will distract. That'll be hanging over Arsenal ahead of this game. And, they've still got those ongoing injury concerns as well. Saka's questionable, Saliba's questionable, and so on. So it definitely won't make my card. I just, obviously, I don't need to go over the reasons why, but I can't bring myself to back Chelsea in any capacity right now. But I can understand why some money has slowly, started to trickle in on the Blues in this spot. Chelsea come off 3 straight wins. I think Pochettino will remind them not to rest in those laurels either. We cast our minds back to March, the last time Chelsea banked 3 straight wins. I remember the conversation was going around that time. Everyone assumed, Graham Potter, he's finally got a handle on the situation at Chelsea. 3 straight wins, they're backable again. And then they proceeded to go on a 9-game winless run. They lost 7 of those 9 outright as well. So we're getting 100% focused Chelsea side in this one at home against, a better team, but nonetheless, a far more distracted Arsenal side with some key injury concerns as well. So because of that, I actually have to look towards taking the dog in this spot, plus a quarter goal on Saturday. But like I said, it won't be on my card personally. But yeah, Chelsea plus a quarter goal at home, that'd definitely be my lean here.
All right, it's Kevin Dolan, Wager Talk. Nick, you talked about the injuries. We don't know yet. I haven't seen any of the Thursday pressers as far as Saka goes. I know he obviously didn't play during the international break. William Saliba withdrew from France's squad as well with the toe injury, and then Trossard, who came out of that Man City game, I think in the first half with a bit of an injury. So those are still up in the air. But we'll know more, I think, later on today. Give me your thoughts on this one.
I disagreed with Kevin last match, but I have no argument against what he's saying here. And it's hard to want to back Chelsea. I get it, right? They stink, and it looks like they stink, and they had a terrible year last year, and they've been burning money for a while. But kind of like I was talking about with Everton, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that suggests that Chelsea, even though the results haven't necessarily been there has been a vast improvement from the squad so far this year. I know it's 8 games, but so far. So last year they finished 1.36 expected goal average, 1.44 expected goal allow average. So in the negative differential. This year, 1.97 expected goals for, and allowing only 1.14. That's major improvements on both sides. I know it's early. They sit third in expected points this season, just ahead of Arsenal, and they're the only team in the Premier League that has won the XG battle in every single match this year. So they are creating chances. They are playing better. They are doing a better job defensively. It's all there. Just results still haven't come, so it's hard to want to get behind them. But I do think knowing all that Chelsea can score, right? It's coming off the international break. Maybe there's some tired legs. I agree with Kevin in the fact that Arsenal, I don't know what their focus is going to be for this match as far as Champions League coming up midweek. And listen, if this wasn't the international break, and they were coming directly off that win over City, this would be, I would love to fade Arsenal in this spot. City, then Champions League, and you just get Chelsea that you're going to look past there right in the middle of it. But there was that little bit of a break, so maybe that refocuses them a little bit. Anyway, it's Arsenal. They're on that high, following that win, but they did concede. I know they didn't allow anything to City, which is you don't see that very often, but they did concede against both the Spurs and United this year, and we know how good Arsenal has been now the last 2 seasons. So for me, it just really comes down to this. Do you think both teams can find one goal in this match? I mean, the simple answer is I do. I think a 1-1 could be a very likely result. It could be more, whatever, but I think both teams have scored. It's not priced too high. It's minus 140. I think it's fair, and that's what I would do in this one.
All right, I'm perfectly happy with 1-1, Nick. Pavlos, we're going to give you the last word on this one. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, this is, I looked at very different, this match from many different angles, spread, totals, halftime props or whatever. What really caught my eye is cards, and Chelsea have been getting a lot of cards this season. They're 7-1 to the over 2.5 cards and 3-1 to the over 3.5 cards in the last 4 matches. Part of it has to do with the fact that they don't have a lot of chemistry, so when dangerous stuff happened in the back, they don't really know, okay, this is a defensive midfielder, he's going to cut it, I'm going to stay back. I think there is a lot of more gelling to do, because when you buy players and sell players and, every transfer window, there's very little time for those players to get the chemistry. And so I think that's my notion of what's wrong, and Chelsea are getting a lot of cards, but for whatever reason, they play a very physical game. Maybe it's Pochettino's instructions. I don't really know, but the facts are there, the stats are there, and they get a lot of cards. Now, Arsenal are on the opposite sides of the spectrum, really disciplined under Mikel Arteta. They got 2 cards against City, 1 card against Bournemouth, 1 versus Everton, 2 versus United, 2 versus Nottingham. So they saw more cards than their opponents in just 2 of 8 matches so far, and are 6-2 to the under 2.5 cards. So, and the 2 matches that they played with, they had more than 3 cards. They were both London derbies against Crystal Palace and Tottenham. Now, last season, Arsenal, they got 0 cards, while Chelsea had 2 in the match between them against Chelsea in the Emirates. While in the match at Stamford Bridge, Arsenal got 2 cards and Chelsea had 5 cards. So a pattern of cards has emerged, and I think Chelsea, they're going to get the most cards in this match, but I didn't find the prop. What I could find, though, was at FanDuel. You can take Chelsea to take over 2.5 cards at minus 112. I think that's a fair price because, just something to add to this Chelsea roster. They have a lot of players who are injured right now. and mainly Nicholas Jackson, who underwent surgery about 7 days ago to his wrist, though. So technically he can play, but he's far from 100%. And his backup, Armando Broja, he was supposed to play with Albania national team a couple of days ago, but he was pulled out of that team. So maybe they ran out of forwards. I don't really know. Just wait for the game, for the lineups to come out tomorrow before you make your final decisions. That's my suggestion. But I think whoever plays, Chelsea they're probably going to get the most cards, and I like the Chelsea over 2.5 cards minus 112, and I think that's an easy hit.
Easy hit. I like to hear that, Pavlos. It makes me feel good to know I can take that one and then just not have to worry about it again. Because again, it's an easy hit. But all joking aside, guys, whether you agree or disagree with us, we'd love to hear your comments and tell us who your best bet is this EPL weekend or in any of the domestic leagues across Europe. We always love to hear from you. Hit that subscribe and like button as well too, so you won't miss any future shows. We'll be back next Thursday, where we're going to cover some more EPL games. I think Champions League takes a week off, and then are back after next week. They're back on the 7th of November, and we'll have a Champions League show to cover some of those big games that go on. For myself, Kevin Dolan, Nick Borman, and Pavlos Lagaretos, this is Stoppage Time. Thanks for watching.